What do you mean you play Harlowe for DPS? She doesn't deal damage.
The horizon pulls me closer, a whisper in the wind. The map is blank before me. Where do I begin? No fear of what's uncertain. The unknown feels like home. With every step I'm finding a place I've never known. Let's go where no one has ever been. A world unseen beneath our skin. Through endless skies, we'll break the chain. Uncharted lands will claim them all. Rise like tides and let it fall. Just endless sea. Come drift with me. Come drift with me.
Let's go, bro. Hello guys, Termex here and welcome back to another Harlowe build video. In my previous video, which I posted yesterday, we did the blue tree Harlowe with a bunch of crowd control and all that kind of stuff, but I said stick around for the boss melting Harlowe, and this is game breaker Harlowe red tree build. No bugs, no glitches unless the skill in question is not being used as intended. When we get into this video, right now, click the like button. Just click it. Alright, the build's already sick. You already see it. Click the like button. Push the video out to more people in the community. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to watch me for more Harlowe content. But going into the build, what makes this build so damn good? What's the interaction? What's the synergy? Neutron capture takes the damage from our ultimate ability, which is our action skill, and it transfers 4% of that damage dealt into our gun. The reason why this is so good is because if we hit a bunch of targets with our ability, that damage transfer goes over into our weapon, and our weapon releases that damage. Now, that damage isn't just overall, it is per bullet. So if I have, let's say, a green shotgun or a legendary assault rifle, every time I shoot, let's say my ultimate gives me 3,000 bonus damage. Every time I shoot, no matter how much damage my actual gun does, it's still going to be 3,000. It is a flat amount. So you would think, if I'm using a sniper, why not use something that's single target, big damage? No, no, no. That is not what we are doing. The way we want this to work is because it doesn't matter how much damage your weapon does. Gun damage does not affect the damage on this build unless it's outside of using the actual ability. What does affect this build, however, is the amount of action skill damage you have that you can then boost the amount of damage being transferred to your weapon. So that means we want to pump out as many bullets as possible so every single bullet can get a proc from neutron capture. Now, where this gets a little bit insane is with the weapon choices I have with the build setup I am rocking. So the faster fire rate weapons will benefit more and will cause us to melt bosses because it is per bullet activation. Now that you know how the build works, let's hop right into the gear and see what we're rocking with. The main bread and butter, which I want to personally use, you can use anything that shoots fast that has a decent magazine size. And the weapon of my choice is actually Aegon's Dream. This is a assault rifle where the bonus effect is it shoots cryo and fire, completely irrelevant. But what I do like about this is the alternate fire has a secondary barrel that increases fire rate. This will pump out as many bullets as possible. It's already 17 bullets per second, and doing this gives us the max amount of damage. Now, this is a little bit overkill for mobbing because when you're in mobbing scenarios, you're kind of wasting all your ammo and you really don't need that much damage. So the plasma coil is just fine. Plus, in my opinion, it's enough to warrant using because it's purposely doing burst. So you're not overcommitting your bullets and overcommitting your ammo storage to one single target. If you have a fast fire rate weapon with a high magazine size, preferably Vladov because fire rate, and then something like a plasma coil or something that's more burst but not necessarily single target like a shotgun, like a burst pistol, anything like that, assault rifle, then yes, rock it into your mobbing slot. But for your bossing, I would recommend go get this gun. I will have the drop source on screen right now. Farm this. I think this is the best way to get the most damage out of this build until proven otherwise with another legendary in the game that may shoot faster. For our rep kit, we are using the war paints, which I believe is going to be helping us tremendously, not only for the movement speed and the life steal, because the life steal, it's going to keep us alive. We could sit still, and with how fast we're shooting and how much damage we're pumping out, leech is going to carry us in the survivability category when it comes to bossing. And of course, when we're mobbing, we don't really need the survivability because everything's going to be dead. We do get the bonus fire rate on use, which is going to further benefit the fire rate and and alternatively boost our damage. For the melee, this is actually something that you may not be surprised by, but we are using a throwing knife with the damage amp payload. This is optional. You don't need it. It doesn't make or break the build, but I want every single number to be as high as possible. There's also another roll on the knife that makes it so the next few seconds are guaranteed critical hits if you want to go that route. But obviously, with this build I've showcased, you do not need it necessarily. This is just so we do more flat out damage to them as a debuff, so it's another form of damage in the damage formula. Think about this like the It's Piss grenade from Borderlands 3, where they become 15% weaker to whatever you're doing. Honestly, really, really good. Only really need it for bossing. If you're mobbing, put on whatever you guys like, ordnance, all that fun jazz. Class mod, though, not as important this time around. I went with the Skeptic, mainly for the status effect restores 5% of your action skills cooldown, and this has no cooldown from the bullet standpoint. So if you're shooting an enemy with the status effect restoration and you have a bunch of bullets on your weapon, you see it many times in these clips, which does mean we're going to have 100% uptime on our chromatic accelerator, and the action skill duration doesn't really matter. I know the whole thing prior is the whole stasis and the darts. Don't worry about that. For the shield, we do have the super soldier. I will say you probably do not need this. With the amount of fire rate I have in the skill tree, with the amount of fire rate I have on my weapon, I think I'm hitting fire rate cap and I'm overkilling the amount of fire rate on this build. So if you want to do another shield that's more survivable, shield doesn't really matter. I'm gonna be so honest with you. You could probably use whatever you want and it's not that big of a deal. I just like the 25% movement speed when I'm doing farming. Plus, if I hit the war paint, I get another 35% movement speed, and then it's just a bunch of movement speed while I'm doing my farms. And the last thing we have is our enhancement. This is not too important. The only thing I would recommend, if you get gun magazine size, slap it on it immediately. Gun magazine size will increase our damage because we're not going to be reloading. We're going to be feeding into a target, which is the main reason for it. It's only 50%. If you get assault rifle magazine size, it will be a higher percentage. Remember, damage does not matter. Assault rifle damage will not help the build, all that stuff. If anything, elemental damage rolls will help out the build because it would put more damage into our chromatic accelerator, meaning we get more damage on our gun. So anything of that sort is what's going to boost our damage, not actual gun damage and critical hit chance. Into our skill tree, like I said, we have some fire rate over here, status effect chance, so we can proc our class mod and get status effects onto the target to begin with in order to reset our cooldowns and have the uptime that we do have. Action skill damage, which inadvertently gives us more damage with our build, as previously explained. Skill damage, once again, feeding more into our chromatic accelerator. Poison Sun is just bonus radiation damage to buff that as well, and then bonus radiation damage to entangled to buff it furthermore, because all the enemies you just hit are now entangled, and if you shoot a target, you will get it back immediately, and then you would be hitting entangled enemies with the bonus radiation damage, and we finally get our Demon Core. Demon Core will shoot out projectiles as it travels, making us do more damage, storing more damage. It does home in on targets, so it makes it a whole lot easier to buff it all up. When we deal damage with a skill, we get more skill damage, which once again feeds our ultimate and gives us more damage. Into the blue tree, we do have critical hit chance with all of our skills, meaning more damage once again for our skills. Elemental damage as well, but we have 9 out of 5 into Bright Future. Now, if you're using the same class mod as me, you probably don't need 9 out of 5 into this skill. If you have the extra points and you feel like you're at fire rate cap, go more for periodic table flip for more elemental damage. Specializations aren't really too important, but they will help out a bit. The first one we have is action skill has the ability to crit, which, like previously explained, does more damage. The other ones I used were action skill cooldown reduction when we use a rep kit. Action skill damage now contributes from our gun damage benefits because it still is present. And then our last one we have is basically the Pearl of Knowledge from Borderlands 3. When we shoot an enemy, we get gun damage. You may be asking, why are we doing the gun damage if you said gun damage doesn't matter? Well, with this build, I still want to be able to use guns outside of the actual build, because when your chromatic accelerator isn't up and you're not shooting or you're in a bad situation, I still want to be able to kill things and not sit there and wait 28 seconds for my ability to come back. So this is kind of a safety net if something messes up during the damage cycle. So I figured to throw that into the build. If you don't want to use this and you feel like you're just a pro gamer, you can get the melee damage turns into fire rate. If you really want to take that route, you could take the fight for your life. All guns are reloaded. Anything to help you with survivability. Honestly, it's 100% up to you when it comes to this, but I would just recommend these top 3 100% with this build. I know the age-old question is going to be asked about the firmware and how the firmware is going to go. I just have one for action skill cooldown rate and the other one is for damage reduction. Not really anything huge, and I think the firmware system is very minuscule benefits that we don't really need right now, but we probably will need in the future. And my worry with the whole system is I'm going to grind it out, and then in a month there's going to be a level cap increase and all the things I had firmware on are gone. But I think you can transfer them to another one, so maybe firmware is always going to be present, so I might start grinding that. But that's the build, guys. That is the build cycle. If you guys want to know, launch it, make sure it hits a bunch of things. All these homing targets are going to be hitting random things, and then when it hits the end of the line or a group of enemies, blow it up, and you have a timer in the bottom left on how long you got that damage. Once that skill runs out and all that stored damage is gone, you have to redo it, and hopefully your action skill is up by then. Lay into the bosses, do all that damage, throw your knife at the boss to do even more. Insane build. Anything single target this build can handle, and a little bit of mobbing potential depending on where you're at, which I've showed in the video. Once again, appreciate all the support on the videos. If you want to see more Borderlands 4 content from me and want to subscribe, it would really mean a lot, as I've been grinding the shit out of this game. This game has been my life for the past 3 days, so any support truly does mean a lot, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Stay safe, and I will see you guys later.
Pull up on the ground with me 6 feet deep. I'ma put you